yesterday, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
63 years ago, a country was vivisected into two nations along religious lines. It resulted in an outburst of violence that will remain etched forever in the collective memory of the two nations. O soother of the stricken, arise and see your Punjab. Corpses are everywhere. The blood is flowing in Chenab. Someone put poison in the waters of 5 rivers. The rivers in turn kept feeding the fields everywhere. Where once they heard love songs, the flute is now mute. The art of playing flute for Ranja's brothers is lost. Rains of blood came. The blood seeped from graves. The princesses of love cried loud from graves. There was cross-migration of 14 million people, the biggest migration in history till date. At least 1 million were reported dead, and hundreds of thousands have never been traced.
Mahatma Gandhi, as you know, did not celebrate independence on 15th August. He was quietly sitting by himself in the Beleghata locality in Kolkata, mourning the division.
A cultural tapestry woven over millennia was rudely torn apart. The bazaars where people sold their goods, the playgrounds where they spent many a happy hour, homes of their friends and relatives suddenly belonged to another country.
বাংলাদেশে আপনার কোনো আত্মীয় নেই? আছে। সেখানে যান না দেখাশোনা করতে? না, আমার তো আর পাসপোর্ট নেই, তো আমি দেখতে যাব। পাসপোর্ট লাগে বাংলাদেশে? বাংলাদেশে যেতে গেলে পাসপোর্ট লাগে না? এই তো পাশেই, তো পাসপোর্টের দরকার। এই টুকানি হলি তো হবে না। তবে পুলিশই তো মারবে।
Railway tracks that connected people lay barren and unused. Roads between vibrant cities were abruptly abandoned. The other side of the river became forbidden territory. Was this division inevitable? Could it not be avoided? Who was responsible for partition?
There were meetings, the usual use. Connecticut writes in a book that our motto should be the divide and rule. We should make the Muslims fight against the Hindus and Hindus against the Muslims. Unless we do that, they will not be able to succeed in maintaining this big empire.
There was only one man, Mahatma Gandhi, who tried to the best of his ability to cling to that principle of a united and independent India. But by 1947, Mahatma Gandhi himself was being elbowed aside by his own erstwhile lieutenants. Only if Mahatma Gandhi had been supported by someone like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose at that critical moment could partition have been avoided. But Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had died fighting for his country's freedom in August 1945, and Nehru and Patel, who used to be the yes men of Mahatma Gandhi, had by now become his no men.
Trying to understand partition is perhaps like a blind man feeling an elephant. As newer facts are unearthed and historians probe deeper, new perspectives develop. The debate continues to rage unabated. Ripples of the vivisection continue to be felt. But we have to make a beginning somewhere. If one side of the coin is the story of India's movement for independence, the other side of the same coin is the story of partition. So we begin with the founding of Indian National Congress, the organization that initiated the nationalist movement. On December 28, 1885, the Indian National Congress was founded at the Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit College in Bombay. Alan Octavian Hume assumed office as the General Secretary. Umesh Chandra Banerjee was elected the President. Hume had embarked on an endeavour to get an organization started by reaching out to selected alumni of the University of Calcutta. These were young men enlightened by Western education and indoctrinated into the political thoughts of modern Europe. Hume addressed them.
Every nation secures precisely as good a government as it merits. If you, the picked men, the most highly educated of the nation, cannot make a resolute struggle to secure greater freedom for yourselves and your country, then at present, at any rate, all hopes of progress are at an end. And India truly neither desires nor deserves any better government than she enjoys.
72 delegates, mostly Hindus, and all from elite educated families, attended the first session of the Indian National Congress. W.C. Banerjee said in his presidential speech,
"The objectives of the Congress is eradication by direct, friendly, personal intercourse of all possible race, creed or provincial prejudices amongst all lovers of our country."
The Indian National Congress, however, was perceived as an elitist organization by the people at large. This was a time when India had just begun to get a taste of modernization. There was a queer coexistence of medieval beliefs and progressive thoughts in society. Those who went to the West to acquire higher education had to do penance on their return for having crossed the Kala Pani or the Forbidden Sea. The Indian National Congress consisted mostly of such Indians. Its formation rang alarm bells among the orthodox Hindus as well as among the Muslims. Muslims in India had been slow to take to English education, and this set them apart from those who were active in the Congress. Sir Syed Ahmed Khan, a prominent educationist who had later founded the Aligarh Muslim University, said in a speech in Meerut in March 1888,
"3 years ago, they founded a very big assembly, which holds its sittings in various places. They have given it the name National Congress. We and our nation gave no thought to the matter. Our Mohammedan nation has hitherto sat silent. It was quite indifferent as to what the Babus of Bengal, the Hindus of these provinces, and the English and Eurasians might be doing. But they have now been wrongly tampering with our nation."
Thus was mooted the idea of two nations in one country. However, the idea of Qaum or nation in Sir Syed Ahmed Khan's speech is not what we today understand as nation.
When we speak of nation, we don't have a word better than Qaum. But at the same time, we find our literature, this Qaum Kaist, Qaum Brahman. And even the documents that you find in the court written, Qaum such, Pesha such and such, Pesha means the profession. Like that, even today the old documents written, the pattern in which Qaum is used, and Qaum has got a lot of meaning in that way.
Muslims and Hindus had cohabited in India for more than 600 years. They have influenced each other in their religious beliefs, in their food habits, in music, language and literature. And there has been an intricately woven economic dependence between the two communities. A Hindu bride wears a sari that a Muslim weaver takes months to weave. A Hindu governor served a Muslim ruler and belonged to his inner circle of trusted men. In Sir Syed Ahmed Khan's speech, for the first time, the interest of Indian Muslims as separate from those of Hindus was publicly voiced. But his voice was not representative of the dominant Muslim thinking of his time. Sadly, the status of Muslims in British India had rapidly deteriorated.
They first removed all the Muslims from the army, the judiciary also. Because of the study of logic and Persian, usually the judges used to be Muslims, qazis used to be Muslims. And they were removed from judicial services, they were removed from administrative services. You can understand they lost state patronage so far this job is concerned. This permanent settlement almost exclusively hit the community. There were 90% of the zamindars were non-Muslims, and they were given extraordinary powers, enormous powers to lord over the destiny of the rayats. They could increase the rent at will, anything they liked, and that was not enough. They were the money lenders at the same time. So in the times of need, they used to advance money to the rayats, and within a short period, what Hunter and James Long writes, they write in their books on their transactions, that it was a horrible time for the peasantry, and who happened to be the Muslims in that way. The Industrial Revolution, synchronized during the next of the period, removed the craftsmen were Muslims mostly.
Now some of the enlightened Muslims feared their subjugation by the Hindus. Sir Syed Ahmed Khan continued in his speech.
Now suppose that the English were to leave India. Then who would be the rulers of India? Is it possible that under these circumstances, two nations, the Mohammedans and the Hindus, could sit on the same throne and remain equal in power? Most certainly not. Until one nation had conquered the other and made it obedient, peace cannot reign in the land.
His name was Munshi Zakiuddin Ahmad. Zakiuddin, Z-A-K-I, Zakiuddin Ahmad. He was, at the time of mutiny, he had crossed the age of 60. He learned from it. And he collected an army of 1,400 young people, Hindus and Muslims, but majority of them were Hindus. And he thought of invading certain areas, the British quarters and all that. But then somehow, accidentally, something leaked up, and he was caught and all that. This intensely patriotic poem, composed by Munshi Zakiuddin Ahmad and circulated among his comrades as a pamphlet, has a unique feature. Zehe izzo sharaf mardan-e maidan ra, qubaye surkh poshan ra, muhibban ra. For the fighters for freedom, there is undying glory. I am filled with pride on their robes all gory. My heart doth long for nothing but the advent of a new spring. Patriot's life is strange if thou discern. Victory or defeat is not their concern.
Resistance against the British rule was rapidly gaining ground. The nationalist leaders realized that a new national identity had to be given to the people whose identities for years had been circumscribed by their religion, profession, caste, and language. Different communities contributed to the construction of the new national identity, but it got a distinctive Hindu color through a number of social and cultural developments. In 1875, Dayanand Saraswati founded the Arya Samaj, a way of living imbibing the fundamental principles of Hinduism and rejecting cobwebs of superstitions and dead rituals. Raja Ram Mohan Roy's Brahmo Samaj was also founded along the same philosophical thought. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's Anandamot was published in 1883. In this book, the character Bhavani Pathak utters Vande Mataram, the magical words that roused the Indian youth against the British. In 1893, Vivekananda mesmerized his audience at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago.
Sisters and brothers of America, I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. I am proud to belong to a nation which has sheltered the persecuted and the refugees of all religions and all nations of the earth.
In 1894, Bal Gangadhar Tilak initiated public celebration of the Ganpati festival in Maharashtra. In 1904, Sri Aurobindo celebrated Kali Puja. The nation was imagined as a mother, Bharat Mata.
Amir Khusro's idea you never hear anywhere, but I can give you even the poems that he wrote, and I think in that way. He was full of praise for the motherland. At that time the British were known not in the scene, but he was glorifying this country. He was telling what is there in Iran, what is there in Afghanistan. Our country is greater, bigger, more important. Our products are such, our flowers are more fragrant. You see, a magnified way of telling things. It shows patriotism.
It was perhaps natural that the Muslims felt left out of these developments. Ironically, all the thinkers who revived the Hindu pride were inclusive in their outlook. Vivekananda had concluded his Chicago speech.
I fervently hope that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of all fanaticism, of all persecutions with the sword or with the pen, and of all uncharitable feelings between persons wending their way to the same goal.
In 1905, Lord Curzon decided to rearrange the provincial boundaries of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, a territory that comprised of 189,000 square miles. A new province called East Bengal and Assam was constituted, with Dhaka as its capital. Thus Bengal was divided into predominantly Hindu and Muslim provinces. The nationalist leaders opposed the move tooth and nail. It was seen as a divide and rule policy of the wily rulers. Rabindranath Tagore came down to the streets and embraced the Muslims as his brothers. The nation joined him in a chorus. The British took advantage of the Hindu dominance of the Swadeshi movement. They gave tacit support to a group of Muslims. In October 1906, 35 Muslims had met the Viceroy, Lord Minto, in Shimla. They appealed to the British government for assistance against the unsympathetic Hindu majority. The meeting was timely because the British were contemplating a certain degree of Indian participation in governance. So it was important for the Muslims to organize themselves into a party. It was recorded in Lady Minto's diary that this act was jubilantly hailed by British officialdom as nothing less than the pulling back of 62 million people from joining the ranks of seditious oppositions. The All India Muslim League was thus formed to safeguard the interest of Muslims of India. The first meeting of the League was held in Shahbag in Dhaka on December 30th, 1906. 58 delegates from all over the country attended the meeting. Mustaq Hussain was elected the first president. He said in his speech,
"We who have not forgotten the tradition of our own recent rule in India and elsewhere, and are more intimately acquainted than other communities of India with the proper relations which should subsist between the government and its subjects, should accept it as a rule of our conduct, that the plants of the political rights of a subject race thrives best in the soil of loyalty. The Mussalmans should prove themselves loyal to their government before they can ask for a recognition of any of their rights."
an appeal to the Muslims of India to be loyal to the British Crown. The Muslim League supported the partition of Bengal and opposed the boycott of foreign goods. Mustaq Hussain continued in his inaugural speech,
"I must confess, gentlemen, that we shall not be loyal to this government for any unselfish reasons, but that it is through regard for our own lives and property, our own honor and religion, that we are impelled to be faithful to the government."
Bengal was reunited 6 years later when George V was coronated to the British throne and came to India in 1911. In 1920, under Gandhiji's inspiration, the Indian National Congress passed the resolution of non-violent non-cooperation with the British government. It received overwhelming support from the masses. The nationalist movement was turned into a revolutionary movement. The Congress gained wide popular support. The Muslims too developed strong anti-British feelings because of Britain's role in the dismemberment of the Turkish Empire. Some Muslim leaders, including Maulana Azad, organized a mass movement of the Muslims called the Khilafat movement. Gandhiji saw this as a rare opportunity to unite Hindus and Muslims. The civil disobedience movement thus gained greater momentum. Muslim leaders were not the only ones to articulate the idea of two nations. The idea of two nations was articulated by many leaders in different ways.
Mr. Lala Lajpat Rai in 1923 moves the idea of partitioning. We cannot live with the Muslims. And he writes letter to Sarath Chandra Chatterjee.
"I am not afraid of 7 crores of Indian Mussalmans, but 7 crores plus the armed hordes of Afghanistan and Central Asia, Arabia, Mesopotamia and Turkey will be irresistible. I do honestly and sincerely believe in the necessity and desirability of Hindu-Muslim unity. I am also fully prepared to trust the Muslim leaders. But what about the injunctions of the Quran and Hadith? The suggestion is that the Punjab should be partitioned into 2 provinces, the Western Punjab with large Muslim majority to be Muslim governed province, and the Eastern Punjab with a large Hindu Sikh majority to be non-Muslim governed province.
What is a nation? Muhammad Iqbal has defined a nation with a poetic touch.
Man is enslaved neither by his race, nor by his religion, nor by the course of rivers, nor by the direction of mountain ranges. A great aggregation of men, sane of mind and warm of heart, creates a moral consciousness which is called a nation.
Rabindranath Tagore envisioned a nation enriched by the confluence of many streams of thought.
Come, ye Aryan, come, non-Aryan, come, Hindu and Mussalman. Welcome to the Englishman. Welcome to all Christians. Come to our mother's coronation. your presence will fill the chalice. Your touch will enable a holy union. All humanity will congregate by the seas of our great nation.
So did Muhammad Iqbal, and yet he observed,
It is, however, painful to observe that our attempts to discover such a principle of internal harmony have so far failed. Perhaps we are unwilling to recognize that each group has a right to free development according to its own cultural traditions. If the principle that the Indian Muslim is entitled to full and free development on the lines of his own culture and tradition in his own Indian homelands is recognized as the basis of a permanent communal settlement, he will be ready to stake his all for the freedom of India.
Muhammad Iqbal continued in his 1930 speech,
Without fullest cultural autonomy, and communalism in its better aspect is culture, it will be difficult to create a harmonious nation. Communalism in its highest aspect is indispensable for the formation of a harmonious whole in a country like India. The Muslim demand for the creation of Muslim India within India is, therefore, perfectly justified. I would like to see the Punjab, Northwest Frontier provinces, Sindh and Baluchistan amalgamated into a single state. Self-government within or without the British Empire, the formation of a Northwest Indian Muslim state appears to be the final destiny of the Muslims, at least of Northwest India.
Thus the geographical contours of Muslim state were articulated for the first time. Muhammad Iqbal's idea was taken to its logical conclusion in a pamphlet published from Cambridge in 1932, called Now or Never, Are We to Live or Perish Forever? The author was Chaudhry Rahmat Ali, a 35-year-old student who claimed to be the founder of Pakistan National Movement. The name Pakistan was thus coined, but it took some more years to gain currency.
All of the senior leaders of the Muslim League had dismissed it as a student scheme that was chimerical and impracticable. And many of the top leaders of the Muslim League held much the same view, even in the early 1940s.
But the word Pakistan did not get snuffed out from the collective consciousness of the people.
And there was a moment when Jinnah himself said that the name Pakistan has been foisted on us by the Hindu press.
The idea of Pakistan drew nourishment from the power-hungry factions and struck deeper roots with the passing years.